This is Jetting Up with B-Reich and Bryan Foti. A pleasant good afternoon, everybody, from the Jetting Up studios. I'm Bryan Foti alongside with my co-host, B-Reich. B, what's going on, buddy? Big show today.
Feeling good today. Feeling like a very big show is correct, my friend.
This was perhaps the biggest offseason in Jet history, free agency. Let's just jump right into it. Free agency was a big concern coming in this year. The Jets had the most cap space in the NFL, a lot of money to spend, and my opinion of it was, they needed to upgrade in so many areas of the ball, and they did I think they could have did a little more with the money that they had, but I think for the most part, I was very happy with how they spent their money in the offseason. I would have liked to get Anthony Barr, but again, he backed out on the 12th hour. But overall, the Jets, with their offseason, making a lot of moves. I think it was very important going in to get some weapons for Sam Darnold, upgrade the offensive line. They did kind of touch on the O-line, bring it in. We'll I guess, start that trade. That was the first move. Trading from Big K.O. Asemale, right? That's how you say his name?
K.O. Assembly. Kelechi Osemele.
There you go, Assembly. We'll see how he does, but a Pro Bowl player a couple of years ago with the Ravens and bolted for the Raiders, was an All-Pro there. Didn't make it last year, but now at 30 years old, comes over to anchor the offensive line for the Jets on the left side at left guard. Jets gave up a fifth-round pick to get him. Bryan, what did you think of this trade, and what do you think he'll bring to that offensive line and his presence? Do you think it makes their O-line better?
I have to be honest, Foti, I think this is my favorite move that the Jets made this offseason.
There you go.
I think it was a great move. I thought they didn't give up a lot for him. A guy's a former All-Pro. I've heard him in interviews. He's a tough guy. He's a culture guy. He's a lunch pail guy. He's going to set the example, show these guys, how to be a successful O-lineman and how to be a tough guy. And I think he's definitely going to improve this O-line for sure. I thought that was a great move to start.
Yeah, and I like that move too. Again, we talked about, or, fans talked about, me and you had conversations, improving the offensive line, and that was a starter. I was a little disappointed, however, they didn't address the center position. They're going with Jonathan Harrison. There were maybe some things they could have got. Morse that ended up signing with the Bills. Paradis, who went down to Carolina from Denver. There was issues maybe that McCagnon didn't really like, his injury history coming off. I think he broke his foot this year and was coming back from that, or had a leg injury. And Gase maybe won. So that was I heard one of the rumors of the disagreements that they might have had. But I would have liked to see them at a center. But they do, on the offensive side of the ball, get a couple weapons for Sam Darnold, actually. And they probably arguably add one of the top two backs in football, and Le'Veon Bell sitting out a year. I love this move for the Jets. I know Adam Gase said he might have been a little overpaid, but for a team with a young quarterback, I just think it's so nice now for Sam Darnold going into year two with, the receiving core not being as solid as it is. He's got a guy, if he's under pressure, he could dump it off to him. He's got a guy now that you can give the rock to, and he can get you 100 yards a game. He's got someone that he could lean on early in his career that's at the peak of his game, that's going to be a top player, arguably in the NFL. When he sat out, the year before he sat out, he was arguably the do-it-all kind of back, one of the top backs in football for Pittsburgh. I know they had a loaded skill positions as receivers and backs and whatever there, good offensive line, but I think this year he's going to come in with a chip on his shoulder. He wants to prove that sitting out a year, people said, we made the wrong decision. I think he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. I really love this move for the Jets, and I know there's been a lot of issues between the whole Gase and Bell relationship. That's another story for a different day, but for me, I love this move. I think it gives a guy, because the whole season for me is about how Darnold improves, and I think this piece gives him a guy he could dump the ball off and keeps his confidence up. And when he's struggling, he can give this guy the ball, and he'll help him out tremendously.
Definitely. I agree with you. I thought it was a great move. I'm not a guy who believes in giving running backs all this money. I totally think that guys deserve their money. They should get it. But if I'm a GM, I'm kind of looking to piece together a couple cheap running backs to try and match that production. But in this case, this scenario, it's a home run for the Jets. Every Jet fan should be excited. This is their first, legit offensive player that they've had in probably a decade. He's an All-Pro. He's probably a Hall of Famer. Like you said, he's a great cushion guy, especially with Herndon being out these first couple games. He doesn't have a safety blanket. And to be honest, Le'Veon Bell is probably the best receiver on this team as well as running back. He's going to catch, a ton of balls out of the backfield. Hopefully he just gets, fed by Darnold and it opens up the whole field. I thought it was a great pick. I kind of wanted them to look at maybe doing it in the draft, but looking back, especially the number they got, Bell, it's a great deal.
Yeah, and like I said, this guy is going to be a guy that Darnold's going to lean on. I love Le'Veon Bell. I ordered the jersey. It's coming tomorrow. I'm excited.
Let's go, baby.
I'm excited. Got the jersey tomorrow. I think he's going to be a stud for this team. He's 27 years old. I think 26, turning 27 this year. He's going to be at least 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, he's not that old, right? 27?
Yeah, 27.
I know he's got some tread on the tires, but that year off is going to be big.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be rested. He played last time he played, he was 25, so he took his 26th year off. He's going to have, at least he's going to be fresh. I think this is going to be a win for the Jets.
And he looks good. He looks good in these Instagram videos.
Oh, yeah, he's got his Instagram, his rap video. He's all ready for the New York.
Now, if you don't buy the album with the jersey, I mean, you're not a fan.
All right, I got to get the album. And I haven't really heard any of his raps. I saw his Memorial Day video where he was posting with his boys. He looked kind of like a little ridiculous for me, but he was jumping around.
You got to love it.
Yeah, you got to love these guys sometimes. Getting the money, he's happy, he's excited. But you know what? If he produces on the field, he could do all the rapping he wants. I'll go to his concerts if he helps him win a Super Bowl. So, but no, moving on. Another key piece that the Jets got in the offseason on the offensive side of the ball. And this is kind of an underrated move. They spent, I think, a little overpaid for this guy. But another guy, if he stays healthy, I think could help Darnold. And that's Jamison Crowder coming over from the Redskins. A good slot receiver. People argued that he was the best slot guy in free agency. I thought Adam Humphries was a little better myself. But, if he can stay healthy, I like this move. He's a speed guy. He gets open. He's just got to stay healthy and stay on the field. He's 25 years old. He'll be able to, grow with Sam as he gets a little bit better. And, with Robbie Anderson on the outside, they can now move Enunwa out of the slot there, put him more on the outside. And this guy underneath, they've got some weapons here, and I like this pickup for the Jets. But, again, on the price, a little too much money. But, when you have all that cap space and guys are paying, you got to overpay sometimes. But, again, for a fit as far as the offense goes, I like this signing too.
Yeah, I think Jamison Crowder is going to be one of these guys that the Jets sign that's really going to make or break this offseason to me. I think it's a big question mark. The slot market was flush with guys, Cole Beasley. You mentioned Adam Humphries. He was my guy, too. That's who I wanted. That was my number one option. But, Crowder's interesting. He's had some production. Last year he was banged up a ton. He had, less than 30 catches, 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's not a real plus going into this season. But, you bring up a good point. A lot of people did argue that he was the best slot in the market. He caught a ton of balls. He was very effective college player, can handle the load, played slot, kick return, punt return. Could definitely help the Jets on special teams if called on. But $9 million investment, hopefully he stays healthy.
A lot of money for a slot receiver, $9 million. Yeah, he's going to have to stay healthy.
Especially with giving, Q $9 million as well.
Yeah, and, Nunwa, they re-signed him before free agency started. And that's, those were the two big moves on offense. Defensively, right? We're going to transition to defense. You got anybody you want to add?
First, since we're talking about the offseason and free agency, I really want to touch on the O-line because, as we start to break down these positions, we're set at quarterback. Now we've added Le'Veon Bell, to get some stability in the running back room. Our wide receiver core, looks pretty promising. A lot of guys who I kind of see as twos. Hopefully a couple guys could emerge as a one between Robbie, Q, Jamison Crowder. Another guy, Josh Bellamy, they signed. He's a quality wideout, play some specials. And even Herndon's kind of makes that tight end group solid. But this O-line I'm worried about. This O-line definitely concerns me. I think that the Jets made a huge mistake not upgrading that center position. You touched on it a little bit, with Harrison. I think Harrison's a solid player, but I think he's a backup. I think we had a chance to sign, 2 guys who are in the top 5, group as a center, and I think the Jets missed out big on both of them. Paradis, I thought was going to be a Jet. I thought it was a home run. but they missed out on him, and the other guy, Morse, ended up going to Buffalo. So I thought that was a big, big miss for the Jets, and they really didn't improve the right side either. Shell or Winters, I thought both guys could have been upgraded possibly, or at least add some competition to those spots. But I think this O-line, wasn't rated very high last year, and it's, Assembly's a great addition, but I don't really like this group, Foti. I don't.
Yeah, the O-line, they didn't really improve it, and that was an area of need. They didn't really address it too much in the draft like we touched on before. Adoga is more of a guy down the line, and that's the only offensive lineman that they took. And, cutting, the guy from Washington, Spencer Long last year, Harrison fills in nicely, but I'm not a fan, like you said, of the right guard Winters, and I'm just really not a fan of the center position right now. I like Harrison. I think he's a good guy, but is he going to be able to hold the load for a 17-game, 16-game stretch if you want to get into the postseason, 17, 18 games? I don't know. And if the Jets want to compete for a postseason spot this year with the cap space and everything, and especially with all the pressure that Gase is going into, I'm sure they're going to be looking to try to do that. I don't know if it's going to be able to, especially with the young quarterback. I think it's okay. It's a little bit better than last year's, but they really needed to improve it, and they didn't hit a home run out of the park, and that's why it gives me a little bit of reservation. Like, if the O-line was set, I would be
completely agree.
Super excited about.
I think if they added one more piece, maybe another guy to create some competition, they still have a shot. I mean, they could bring in a guy like John Sullivan, a quality guy with the Rams.
You never know what teams cut, or if someone gets hurt, or if whatever, and what things.
But if we're rolling into week one with this O-line, I'm a little nervous for Sam.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think the left side will be good, but I think as a whole, you need to be, it's going to be. It's going to be what we'll see. If Harrison can improve his game, maybe he steps up and plays better. But I would have liked to seen it a little bit more solidified and going into Sam's second year than what they did. Now, they have another offseason, obviously, next year to do that, and I'm sure they'll touch on that. But, for the 2019 Jets, I would have liked to see it a little bit more improved than where they are right now. But there's still time in training camp to add some pieces if the guys get hurt, or, if they want to pick someone up, a veteran, like you said, like Sullivan, or maybe the guy, Harrison, maybe we're underrating him. Maybe he improves. So we'll find out what happens. But shifting over to the defensive side of free agency, C.J. Mosley, the big acquisition for the Jets in the middle. I absolutely love this move, too. I think you need a guy on the defensive side. I know Jamal Adams is coming into his own as a leader, but as far as a linebacker is concerned, you need someone to lead a defense, call the plays. Middle linebackers usually call the huddles. They quarterback the defense. You used to coach high school football, Bryan, so you know all about that. And this guy coming over from Baltimore, a winning organization, knows what it's like to be a pro, coming out of Alabama, just goes in there, doesn't say anything, does his job, leads his teams in tackles, makes plays, and will not be a problem for you off the field, will get you lined up in the right defenses, make your calls for you, does everything, and will be really like a glue guy. I know it's not the flashiest of signing, but love this move. I think especially with Adam Gase, too, being an offensive-minded guy, he needed really, and bringing in Greg Williams is another big addition on the defensive side of the ball, just so he could focus on the offense. And this guy's going to be a guy that he could just say, plug him in there, and then you forget about him. He'll call out the defense, make the plays, and, it's a great move for the Jets. I really like it.
Yeah, CJ was definitely, a great pickup for the Jets. Guys come to the league, been a Pro Bowler, been an All-Pro, super productive, not excellent in coverage, doesn't grade too well, but, fantastic in the run. And if you take a look at what the Jets are doing, if you really start to take a look at this depth chart, up the middle, they're very sound. You got Quinnen Williams, who they believe in a lot. You got C.J. Mosley, who's, a Pro Bowler. Avery Williams, who's led this team in tackles. You got Jamal Adams, who's your stud at safety. And you got Marcus May, who's a second-round pick you've invested in. So, your core defense is all in that middle, to help you with the run. And CJ just brings, a total different swagger to this defense. A great leader, like you said, never in trouble, always focused, and a guy that just wants to win and be in a good, organization and start to develop that culture. I love the pick. Besides Osemele and Bell, I mean, this is terrific pickup.
Yeah, like I said, that's going to be a guy you plug in, forget about him. He'll get you lined up. Another position that the Jets really needed that I thought they were going to go was edge rusher. We'll talk about it. Anthony Barr, they had him. He left. What was your whole thoughts? I know it's really not a signing, but what was your whole thought on that and what the potential could have been there and what happened with that whole situation? It was just, to me, very ironic.
It's honestly, it's one of those things that it's typical Jets. It's a move that you didn't see the Jets making. Kind of changing a guy from a 4-3 linebacker back to his original college roots at the outside, where he was very productive, especially early on in Minnesota. I mean, he was a stud in the beginning, passing, rushing the pass. He did a great job at UCLA of doing that. And I thought it was very smart to just kind of, not attacking that edge rusher market and kind of creating their own guy and, paying him a good amount of money, but well worth it. And, you take a look, that's Anthony Barr, C.J. Mosley, and Avery Williamson. I mean, the Jets have one of the best linebacking cores in the game. Now, classic Jets, he pulls out, he vomits, he can't stand it, and he runs back to Minnesota quickly. But that was really tough for the Jets because they thought they solved their outside edge rush problems for sure.
A couple other minor moves that they made in free agency too. They bring in, they bring him back. I think this was a good move too. Henry Anderson comes back on a 3-year deal for $25 million. A lot of money, so big expectations. He had a breakout season last year after getting him from Indianapolis. What are your thoughts on Big Henry coming back to the Jets?
Well, it's funny you look at it. I mean, the Jets picked him up, and you saw a guy who kind of bounced around a little bit, quality player, but bounce around. He's in his 5th year. And, he has a quality year for the Jets last year. I thought it was very good that they brought him back. Kind of fits that inside 3-4 DN spot. Kind of knocks our guy Nathan Shepard back from last year. Kind of moves him back to the secondary role. But, a guy who could definitely help with the pass rush. And, I didn't talk about it enough, but losing Barr, I mean, absolutely devastated this defense, I think. The pass rush is terrible on the outside. I think the Jets possibly have the worst 2 starting outside linebackers on paper to start, and I think it's a crime that they haven't addressed this besides just adding a 3rd-round pick in Ja'Kai Polite.
Yeah, and that's going to be the big question for this defense going forward. Where is the pass rush coming from? Like you said, Brandon Copeland is that guy starting right now. If Ja'Kai Polite will beat him out, I think he will. That would be a nice thing as a rookie getting starting, and hopefully they can add some depth. But another area of need, I think, that they didn't really address. Now, there's still some veterans out there, like a guy like Mo Claiborne, but the Jets they let Buster Screen walk, they let Morris Claiborne walk, and they re-signed Darryl Roberts to a 3-year deal, who played nicely when he filled in when Claiborne was injured, but to me, he's not a starting NFL caliber corner, or at least the Jets view him that. Now they're giving him $9 million. But Tremaine Johnson comes over from the Rams last year, really was a bust. When he was with Greg Williams in Los Angeles his first year, when he was there, and he had his best years. So they really need this guy to pick it up. But again, they don't have another starting cornerback. They bring in Brian Poole from Atlanta, a 1-year, $3 million deal to be the nickelback. But the depth that in the secondary, I know the safeties are good with Adams and May, and you've got a couple other pieces there that they can float in if May's still a little banged up from last year. But the cornerbacks, especially on the outside with Roberts, that's a big commitment, and especially Tremaine coming in, paying him all that money, and really not looking like a top-level NFL corner last year. Definitely not a number 1. What's your concern about the cornerbacks going? I know if you get past, that's why Anthony Barr, like you said, is so devastating because if you get a pass rusher on the defense,
your secondary improves.
Exactly, and you don't have to really worry about it so much. But now that he's gone, you didn't really address pass rush until the 3rd round of the draft. Now this is going to be an issue because it could be like the Rex Ryan era Jets with Darrelle Revis and Cromartie locking it down. They got to cover guys for 20 seconds. So that's why I think Polite really has to be the key to the offseason and the draft if they can get a pass rush. But, you can't expect a rookie to generate that much pressure in his first year. But really going back to the secondary, are you concerned at all, or do you think that Darryl Roberts is a good player? Are you really are you, like you said, devastating about Anthony Barr? Do you think the Jets secondary could be in some trouble here with the cornerbacks that they have currently on the roster?
Well, I don't want to upset you any further, but I'm not sure Roberts is going to be the starting corner on the other side. I don't see it.
$9 million though.
I agree. They paid him. I don't know. I kind of see him more as a safety to me. I don't really like him as the cornerback spot, and I kind of think that they're going to go in two different directions. You know, I think that they're either going to play Nickerson as the outside and move Poole into the slot, or maybe even move Poole to the outside and maybe move Nickerson. And I thought Poole was a very good pickup, a little quiet pickup, quality player. Another one of my Florida Gators. Had 3 picks last year, did a good job in the slot for Atlanta. Also could play some outside.
He's short though,
so he's a little versatile. Yeah, he's more of a slot corner like Buster. So I kind of think they're going to start Nickerson, but to be honest, if they're going to go with Nickerson to start, then I am not liking this cornerback group at all. I think that they need to make a move for Morris Claiborne, try and bring him back, or maybe even, kick the tires on this guy Darius Slay. He's not happy in Detroit. He's a quality corner, very good, very high graded, probably their best player on defense, so I don't know if they're willing to let him go, but wants a contract, holding out. That could be the move, but if Nickerson or Roberts is their starting corner, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, so, a lot to do with the offseason, but overall, what were your thoughts overall on the whole offseason for the Jets? I thought it was good because as much as you were complaining and knocking them for the defensive side of the ball, to me, the whole thing about this year going forward is improving Sam Darnold and letting Sam Darnold get better. And I thought they gave him enough weapons to improve their offense from a year ago. I like Bell. I like the Crowder move. I think the offensive line is a little bit better, so it's definitely an upgrade from last year. So overall, they improved the offense. They have an offensive-minded coach now, so they're still trending in that track to make this kid and give him all the help that he needs. As far as playoffs are concerned, and, there's going to be expectations now that Gase is in there and ratcheted that up. We're going to have to rely on, Greg Williams as a defensive coordinator, and I think that's a big key to the offseason, too, that we didn't really touch on. I think going into this season, Greg Williams is definitely a big pickup. His schemes, hopefully he can design some ways to make these guys play effectively, and maybe he gets the best out of all these kind of cast the characters, especially with the edge pass rushing and the lackluster corner performance right now. Maybe he gets the most out of these guys, and maybe they'll play like a top-level unit even though they don't have top-level talent. We'll see. But going forward, overall, I'll give this offseason. I like what they did, and it is pretty funny because the GM who constructed the offseason is now no longer the GM. But that's just so Jets, and that's why we're always jetting up here on the Jetting Up podcast.
Well, what was your grade?
I didn't give it a grade. I just said I liked it. Are we doing grades? You want to give it a grade?
I think if I had to give it a grade, the thing I want to look at is I kind of want to look at this offseason as kind of like a 2 to 3 year process, and it may be a bit of a cop-out, but if I had to grade this season, this offseason, I'd probably give it a B. I thought it could have been an A. I thought they could have done better. I thought if they added a center, if they added a corner, I thought they really could have had that, A off season. But, they saved a little bit of money. Next year I kind of see them going after that number 1 wide receiver, really starting to step up this O-line. And, hopefully they make some move towards the end, right before this season starts to improve it a little bit. But, my final off-season grade, regarding the players is a B. We didn't talk about it enough, but Greg Williams I thought was an A-plus hire. Fantastic. I think he does a great job with the defense. He's fiery. He's the type of guy that I like, run through a wall for him. And, I think he'll get the most out of this defense.
You're right, B. Greg Williams will be a great addition to the New York Jets coaching staff this year. I think it's a very underrated one. But, again, we are running out of time, and it's about that time again. It is now time for the 2-minute drill. There we have it. It's time for the 2-minute drill, and let's hop right into it. My first question for you, Bry, is C.J. Mosley worth the money?
100%. I think the guy's a Pro Bowler this year. I think he leads the defense in tackles. Now, my question to you is, Le'Veon Bell, over under 1750 yards total.
Oh, that's an easy one. Over. He's looking to prove himself, get the money back. I wouldn't be shocked if you see 2,000, a 2K from 26 this year. Last question from me to you, Bry. Just kind of maybe answered my own question. I don't think so, but what do you think? Will the Jets have buyer's remorse on Le'Veon Bell?
I honestly don't think so, Foti. I think that he's a quality back. I think they got him at a decent price, and I think he's going to make Darnold better and better and better, be that great safety net, that security blanket. I think they will not have buyer's remorse. My final question to you, very simple. More catches this year, Jamison Crowder or Q?
You know, Quincy Enunwa, I think, is poised for a breakout year. But, again, the key is with both these guys. They got to stay on the field. Jamison Crowder, I think he'll get a rapport with Sam Darnold, and he'll definitely have some catches. But I'm going to go with Q on this one. I think, coming into the first year, I think Darnold has a little more chemistry. And I'm going to say Enunwa makes some more plays on the field this year for the New York Jets. But that's going to be all the time that we have today for the Jetting Up podcast. Be sure to join us next week as we will continue our offseason review. We'll go into offensive and defensive previews. Bry, as always, have a good one, and we will talk to you soon.